This is deep dish, right?
Yeah, well, let's get deep.
So I'm going deep on both sides.
Councilwoman Hurt, how you doing? Welcome to the platform.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing amazing.
Good.
Glad to have you here.
Glad to be here.
I'm gonna go ahead and just give your flowers right off the jump. Just for everything that you have put in for Nashville, Middle Tennessee, the work, the people you poured into me. You know, back when I was a young boy, 21, 22, when me and my daddy had the barber college.
Yes.
And so I just want to just thank you and give you flowers. Probably enough people don't tell you that. So I'm gonna tell you.
Don't make me cry.
On camera. And then as a black woman doing it too. As a black person, but that woman is another layer that I would never fully understand. As a black man, that you have other barriers and hurdles and trials and tribulations and social constructs that you have to battle and still persevere in spite of.
Right.
And so thank you just for your work and your continued support of just people and community. So
thank you.
Get that out the way.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
No, you're welcome. But you are now running for Nashville Mayor 2023. How are you feeling about it right now?
I feel great. I feel wonderful to have such an opportunity to be able to run. I tell people that even though I'm running for that particular seat, I'm not necessarily running to be mayor, but I'm running for Nashville. I'm running to make Nashville a better place, making it the best that it can be. Because I think we have so much opportunity here, and we have hope and prosperity, and we want to see it reach every block and every community.
Right.
And me being there in that office will be one with lived experiences that can share that and push things in the way where we can be more inclusive of all Nashvillians.
And so let's just get into some of your qualifications. What make you the best qualified compared to your opponents to be in this seat? Because there's a lot of y'all. It's like 30 of y'all. I don't know how many. Yes. But what separates you from the rest of your opponents that you feel that potential voters need to know?
Well, you know what, there are several things that I would say, but right off the bat, I would say that I'm the only one who has run countywide and won both for council at large, which is not easy to do. And in the last council at large race for the general election, I was the top vote getter. So 47,000 plus people, more than 50% of those who voted said they believed in me. They cast their vote for me. They also talk about the work, as you said, that I've done at Jump. I started and I worked there for almost a quarter of a century, where I did economic development, community development, advocacy for the Jefferson Street and surrounding communities, for North Nashville. Basically changed that entire corridor and the way people saw it, invited folks there. I have done shuttle service, transportation. I had a youth program and enrichment for the youth, focused on the seniors. Just so many things that I've done. I created Jump into a certified housing and development organization, was a part of neighborhood stabilization. I've been on the ground doing the work. I work with the people. I have lived experiences. But something else that I say that is really interesting in how it makes me qualified more so than others is that I am from Memphis, but I am been a resident of Nashville for 40 plus years. I graduated from Tennessee State, but I also graduated from Belmont.
Right.
I live in Bellevue, I work in North Nashville, but I've lived in Bordeaux and I've lived in Madison. So when you talk about a balance, and I've worked in every quadrant of Nashville, north, south, east, and west Nashville. And I believe having that type of balance is what it is that we need. Our communities have such disproportionate things that when it comes to access, resources, health care,
Right.
all of those things. So seeing the balance and how it can be and how it should be for all Nashvillians is that perspective that I bring that others do not bring. I've served on several predominantly white organizations where I've served as their first black president of those organizations. I also have national experience. I'm the immediate past president of a national organization.
Okay.
Of black elected officials. So just some of those things I think. But more than anything, I am a leader. I am an executive. I have led organizations. I worked at Mayoral Medical College for 20 years before I started working at Jump, and I ascended up and became director of admissions and records. So I've led people. I've been a leader all of my life. And I believe that is what makes me different from others.
I want to unpack this blackness a little bit because I just think we have to. Nashville has never had a black mayor. We've had a woman mayor, but never had a black mayor or black woman mayor.
Right.
I know it's you and then Natasha Brooks are the only two black candidates running.
Well, no, there's Fran Bush.
Fran Bush. Yeah. I forgot about Fran Bush. So it's 3 black women actually that's running for this candidacy.
Well, I know that Vivian Wilhoit has also said she was running, although there has not been an official announcement.
Okay, so 3 official announcements.
Right.
So, Letitia, Fran, and yourself.
Right.
What does that mean? Or what would that mean to you, and what would that mean to Nashville to be the first black person, and on top of that, first black woman mayor to lead Nashville? What does that mean to you?
You know what? It's a bittersweet feeling that I have. Sweet in the sense that the opportunity has presented itself for that to happen, but for us to be just now in 2023 and we've had a black president and a black vice president of these United States of America, and a progressive major city like Nashville has not, is sad. Because we talk about progression and being progressive, and I see progression all over the city. That was the one thing that I fell in love with when I first came here as an 18-year-old going to school. But when you peel back the onion, you see that deep down that there's still that inability to really embrace the black community. It's been more of a tolerate the black folk as opposed to celebrate black folk. And I believe, however, that it's an amazing opportunity for me. I've had 15 nieces and nephews to come to Tennessee State University, and I've had one to come to Fisk University that I've brought into the city, and not to mention those that are in my family and all of these young girls and black kids around that they realize that they can be what it is that they see. So with me being that person in this position, I think it means so much to the black community. And actually, I don't think that we're going to get the types of things and understanding and access to resources until someone of color is in that seat, someone who understands the plight of the black community.
Yeah, you know, it kind of speaks to just the whole inclusion and equity, these buzzwords, that like many people are using. And I want to just kind of speak directly to this because since we haven't had a black mayor in Nashville, you know, and that might just be due to just playing out anti-blackness, you know, that we know that we experience throughout the country, in the United States since we got here, since black people been here and got here. what would you say to those voters who may just purely discount you due to your blackness? Because I'm not going to sit up here and act like, you know, that's not going to be a case for you, for Fred and Letitia.
I would say believe. You know, if you would just only believe, it can happen. In fact, I believe it will happen. This is a spiritual journey for me. Many people didn't believe what was going to happen with the 2 Justins and the Tennessee 3 last week. And then they may not have believed that they were going to be reinstated, but they were. You know, that's the thing. I don't believe in miracles. I depend on miracles. And I know that this is one of those things that can happen. In fact, you can look at the data. So, of the voters in Nashville, black voters are 32% of the black vote. I believe that Mayor Barry received about 22% of the vote to make it to the runoff. So even if I don't get all of the black votes, if I get 25% of the votes, I can make it to the runoff. But I also know that I have other people who are not black who will support me and have surrounded me. So I think that I have probably the most electability of all the candidates to win. So if you put the numbers to the paper, you will see that. That's what I would tell those black voters. And also I want them to know that this is really not about me. This is about them. This is their opportunity. When they vote for me, they're voting for themselves. Because I have those same lived experiences. I have that same past where there's been discrimination. I have the same past where we've been disenfranchised, dismissed, discounted, marginalized, overworked, underpaid, used, and abused. Neglected. And all of this is time out for that. When I served as president of the National Black Caucus of Local Elected Officials, my motto was education, excellence, and equity, an elevated collective. Because we've got to elevate black excellence. When you look at Tennessee State University having won Grammy Awards, and the only other college that has won is Fisk University right down the street, and they did it back to back, where both of those colleges are right here in Nashville. We've got industries here, healthcare, education, healthcare, education, and music. In all 3 of those, we have strong, prominent black presence there. And I think that we have missed the opportunity. Nashville has missed the opportunity to really celebrate the black excellence that's here. This is our time. You know, the Bible says that the first shall be last and the last shall be first. And I think it's our time. And if we miss this opportunity, I'm not sure that it's going to come anytime soon again. Because if we understand what's happening at that state level, they're not only dismissing black people, but they're dismissing middle class people, those legacy residents that have been here. And my purpose has always been to preserve the culture of this community, to preserve the black community in North Nashville, and preserve the honor and the legacy that we stand on.
Let's dive into the issues that is facing Nashville. And I want to give this opportunity to unpack these things kind of one by one, and kind of what would be your role if elected mayor in kind of getting these things where they need to be, because there's so many crises, right? I think one of the most prominent ones is this housing. I don't know how many units we need now, 30,000, maybe 50,000, to just to alleviate the crisis that we in. As mayor, what would that look like as far as funding, affordable housing, alleviating this crisis, public-private relationships, all these things that I know a mayor has to figure out and balance to move the city forward when it comes to housing specifically. Unpack that for us and kind of your vision or plan for that.
Okay, so let me just say, first of all, housing is a problem all over this country. Right. It's not unique to Nashville. So I think all of it kind of starts with our planning department, where we've allowed developers to come and create so many developments. We've got gentrification that's been coming, and I work really, really hard not to have the Jefferson Street community gentrified, but it is. It is being. But I believe that the work that I did slowed and delayed some of that gentrification that was coming in. But for me, I think we have to make it a priority, and we have to use the funding that we do have, like we did use funding to give to the Barnes Funds. But the thing of it is that there's just so much that those organizations can do. So for me, I would go in. Habitat for Humanity can build a house in a day. We can get a cruise, and we can convert some of these schools, these vacant schools, and put them into some homes. Put teachers in there, give them some incentives to be teachers, to stay with our school systems, and for them to be able to afford. I would not only build affordable housing, but attainable housing. Meet people where they are and ensure that they are here, because we got too many people voting with their feet. And then, when we had the tornado, you saw so many people were renting in North Nashville who did not have a place to go. Because once the landlords got their insurance money, they were able to rehab their homes and then start charging market rate. You can't really blame them for that, because everybody is trying to have a quality of life and make money. But I think that we have to be intentional. I love what Dr. White at MDHA is doing, because his projects start with 50% affordable, then 25% workforce housing, and 25% marketplace housing. And I think that that's the kind of thing that we need to do all over. I'd also take some of the malls that are closed, the strip malls, and even some of the larger malls, and use those buildings. Okay. Because many of them are still on good solid ground, right. and maybe have a place for entrepreneurs like yourself, where you could have your business downstairs and you have a residence upstairs, and create that and use that. We've got a lot of land, we got vacant land, and we could put things there. I know we see that state prison out in off of Centennial Boulevard, and it has been vacant for decades. And I think that that's some place that can be utilized to create housing for those who need it. Right. So I think we have to be innovative in the things and creative in the things that we do in order to make sure that we provide those housing. So it's a matter of prioritizing. Right. And I think we got to slow down some of this development and focus on preserving the homes and the rights of those who made Nashville its city.
Yeah, and I think preservation is a good word, because how do you preserve kind of the soul and kind of the history of Nashville, while also understanding that we're moving in the direction of growth. Still 80 people a day are moving here, so that change is going to come, and change is, it's good. It comes, right. Comes with pros and cons, but there are pros to that.
Exactly.
As mayor, what would be your message to people? How would you? What would preservation look like?
I think that's what we got to do. We got to send a message. We got to educate them. Educate them about the greatness. Tell people about J.C. Napier. So do you know J.C. Napier? Yeah. Do you know that he was a treasurer? Yep. The United States Treasurer. But there are so many people that don't know that. They think that J.C. Napier was somebody who built the public facility. Right. But they don't know that J.C. Napier, Preston Taylor, Joe Johnston, all of the John Henry Hale, some of these people that names that they hear all the time, they are historic, and those places were made with, when they were built with pride because of who these people were and what they stood for. Right. You know, J.C. Napier, Preston Taylor were part of that group who started Citizens Bank. It was the 1 cent bank. And it's still the oldest bank in the country that's still around since 1904. Right. So those kinds of things, we have to celebrate who we are and educate people about the black excellence that we have here. And that would be my message. Okay. You know, people love to talk about Jimi Hendrix and how he was here, and they don't know why and how he was here. Right. He was in the Army, and he served in Fort Campbell, and he came over to Jefferson Street because Jefferson Street was a wonderful place.
It was booming.
It was booming, thriving with economy, and all of the doctors and lawyers, C. Alexander Luby, and all of those people who were making it. You know, you hear the stories about Dr. King with the Civil Rights Movement and all of the things that they did. Right. And that's why I love Nashville, because, you know, I'm from Memphis, and there's and Memphis is a blue-collar city. You know, you learn how to work, and you work hard, get your hustle on, but you use your body from the neck down. Whereas in Nashville, you've come here and I've seen them use their bodies from the neck up. So you sit at the table and negotiate. You don't stand out in the street and negotiate.
You know what they say, people in Memphis come to Nashville to shine. You know?
Right, right. But see, but the thing of it is that you learn to survive.
Right.
In Memphis. Right. So you come here and you see opportunity and you go at it. You know, it's like, it's no shame in my game. I'm going to work as hard as I can to accomplish. When I got here, I saw hope and promise. I'm like, oh my God, I'm looking at all of these professional people from Harry Medical College and Fisk University. They telling me that W.E.B. Du Bois was there, and I'm like, these are people that I've read about in books. You know, the National Black Anthem, James Weldon Johnson's house is over here. What? You know,
pride.
All that pride, and I absolutely love it. And I've seen how they commercialize Beale Street. And I didn't want to see them do the same thing to Jefferson Street. That's why I think it's so important to preserve it. And the key are those historically black colleges that are here. And I think that is the glue for us. Black Enterprise used to post the 5 top cities for black people to live. And it was always Atlanta, Memphis, Birmingham, D.C., and Nashville was 5th. And why? Because we've got 4 HBCUs. There's no other city. Atlanta used to have it, but Clark, Atlanta merged together. But we are one of those 2 that had 4 historically black colleges. So you've got a base of middle class people, of black people who are educated because of those institutions being here. So they've done well, been able to purchase a home, starting an opportunity to create wealth. That's the difference of what we see here. Whereas in Memphis, you've got educated people and folk that go back, but you have a larger base of those who are below the poverty level of A and I.
I want to go ahead and pivot straight to this. Black businesses, the small businesses. Since we kind of on this theme right now, we have an organization here, Corner to Corner, which is an amazing organization. They focus specifically on getting black-owned businesses here in Nashville thriving. You know, they trying to get 10,000 in 10 years, a theme like that. And the mayor is kind of pivotal to making that happen, identifying opportunities for marginalized folks, minorities, people of color, but specifically black folks, because we represent the majority of disenfranchised people and the lack of opportunities and access and then equity when it comes to that. Have you thought about some ways, especially being with Jump, you know, being CEO and founder, how can we create more opportunities and work with like corner to corners and things like that to create these opportunities and access to build this wealth, to start these
Absolutely,
businesses?
I have. That's the work that I did at Jump for almost 25 years.
And be intentional about it.
And
right?
I was absolutely intentional about it. I worked day and night, you know, for Black business. When I got, and you know, me working as a public servant leader, it was a natural foray for me to go into because I knew that we were going to have policy in order to help do the things that we need to do. So that's why I was the sponsor of the Equal Business Opportunity to provide more equity in minority contracting. When I got on the council, I was like, okay, God, there's two things I'm praying for. The first thing is that I want people that look like me to become millionaires. And the second thing is don't let me cuss on the council floor. Because you know, I will cuss in a minute. And I just have to make sure that I hold my mute. And that didn't happen. I did. But you know, sometimes you have to emphasize things.
Right.
But absolutely, I have been focused on Black businesses. And the one thing that I feel that we can do, if we give the small businesses the same type of incentives that we give to these big businesses, they can do so much more with them, because that's where the backbone of our workforce lie, in these small businesses. So I will use some of that funding that we give to the Amazons and the Oracles of the world and make sure we pour that into these small businesses. And give them what it is, because the problem has been is that we've not had access to capital. We've not had access, and then when it takes overhead for you to be able to establish yourself. And startup funds are good, but it takes 5 years typically before a business is stabilized in order to stand on its own. And I want to make sure that we give those businesses the footing that they need in order to rise above. So I will definitely, that's been my life's work. You know, my mother and father both were entrepreneurs. My mother had about 4 businesses. She was a real estate agent. She was an insurance agent, a notary public. She used to do, was a hairstylist, a beautician. That was what they called it back in the day. She was a hustler. She did people's taxes. You name it, she did it. My daddy used to have a service station along with his 9-to-5 job, even though his job was 3D, his job was 3D11. You know, and it just occurred to me recently, Jerome, how so many Black men had to work second and third shifts. And that was a part of the system too, to keep the families handicapped. Because if the daddy was not in the house, and how things were not being able to handle, and the discipline for the kids. And I want to restore every family. I want to restore that Black man and that presence. And the man has to have what he needs in order to provide for his family. So we've got to work on those workforce development pieces, which, you know, I had a workforce development program at Jump. And the other thing is that I found out at Jump is that the reason why people could not get jobs is because they didn't have driver's license. And they didn't have driver's license because they didn't have a job and couldn't get their child support paid, so they would take the driver's license and all of that. So it's a vicious cycle that kept them from doing it. So we created a driver's restoration program, driver's license restoration program, which was going really, really well. But the new mayor that came in at that time decided that they were not going to keep that workforce development program. I think what they wanted is to keep 37208 in that unemployment rate, in that high incarcerated rate. I think all of that was systemically designed. And that's the thing. So because I knew that I couldn't help those businesses if we didn't help the homes and the residents around it, because retail follows residents, right? So we got to make sure that the people that's going to support those businesses have the things that they need. So that's why I spent so much time trying to work with the people that I was on a board at Matthew Walker. So looking at the disparities. So that is the other thing, the perspective when I'm looking at is the disparities of our health care. Why is it? Because people didn't have access to health care, they didn't have access to good food, were not educated about the things that they should or should not eat. You look at the Kroger. Now it's a little different now, but that Kroger never had a salad bar. Mm-hmm. It never the one on Monroe. They never had a salad bar. They've done some changes because the demographics around it has changed. Yeah. But you know, there it used to be a community garden where that Kroger sits right now. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it was so another store that was across the street on the southeast corner, mm-hmm. where the museum is now. Yep. That used to be Farmers Market. Mm. Not the open air market like we see, but it was a store called Farmers Market, and we used to get a lot of the old Kroger products in there, and that's the store that they had. So people didn't have access to good food. They were selling them a lot of things that were bad for their bodies. So people, it's about habit, and we have to change those habits and educate people about a better life. And then when you get to be in a leadership position like mayor, that's when you can actually see the change. You see the way that the president is and the things that he wants to see done is what we have. And the same thing happens in cities. It's about the leadership.
Public safety, policing.
Yes.
There's been a theme, defund the police. People on different spectrums, mm-hmm. the ideas of what police should look like throughout the country, but even more so in Nashville, Davidson County, with SROs and all of these things. And it's even more heightened when you have mass shootings that affect youth that are in kids, youth and kids. What are your thoughts on policing? And what are your thoughts on the job that Chief Drake has done thus far under appointership of Mayor Cooper, the Mayor Cooper administration in public safety in Nashville today? Okay,
so again, here's another one of those balances. Mm-hmm. And I think that that's what Nashville has to do is bring that balance. We cannot have the disparities and disproportions and all of that. Defund the police. I don't necessarily think that we have to defund the police, but I also don't think that we need to militarize the police either. Okay. I think we have to make sure that we keep that balance. I think there needs to be community policing, meaning that we got to work with the community. I think that the police need to respect the streets. And the streets need to respect the police. And how do we do that? We got to spend more time together. Mm-hmm. We've got to have, and that's one thing that I really do like about Chief Drake and the things that he's done. First of all, him growing up in East Nashville, and going to school in North Nashville, and he's got other police officers that he's put in positions and leadership positions that the community knows. Mm-hmm. So you've got more respect there. They spending more time in the communities and making things happen. I like the fact that Chief Drake is listening to what he's hearing and how we've got to focus on some mental health, but we've got to do some of the things that they're doing. But in times like what we saw unfold before our eyes a couple weeks ago at Covenant School, there is no doubt that the police stepped in and made every person in Nashville very proud of the way they handled that situation.
How do you feel specifically about having more police in schools? It's for people who may be listening and may not know. SRO, school resource officers, are police officers, and it's a memorandum agreement between MNPD and MNPS. MNPD pays for these officers to be in our public schools, not elementary schools, but middle high schools. But our private schools, like Covenant, don't have that memorandum. They can get security if they want to or whatever, but they typically don't have police officers or security in their schools. But there has been much debate even prior to this mass shooting of police officers, SROs being in schools in general. Some people are like, I I don't know if I want, especially my black child, my black boy,
right.
in the interaction with police officers in school. Some people feel like, hey, you know, a lot of stuff is going on. I'd rather them be there. Some people feel like, hey, let's invest more in like a therapist or
right.
counselors for that social emotional learning
exactly.
aspect. What I think Nashville is
right.
would love to hear your thoughts.
I don't understand why we can't have a little bit of all of it. You know, I mean, my mother said it's better to have and not need than to need and not have.
Right.
Okay? So I get that part of it. But I also have experienced firsthand a school resource officer who abused his job as a school officer, because here I am, a black parent that come into the school for my daughter to see my daughter, and he had me do things that I think were excessive, to the point that I ended up writing a complaint against him, because and he knew who I was, but it was because of the color of my skin. So I think that people are who they are, and they will use and abuse some authority that's given to them.
Right.
I also think that we are unfortunately living in times where we've got school shootings, where we've got these kinds of things that are happening. And while we might need some mental health specialists in the schools, we need them outside of the schools too. So the continued care that we have with the police department and sheriff's department and DA and some of the mental health co-op and just a group of people that we are looking into, that the police is doing across the city, I think is a very good thing, because we need to talk to one another. We need to come together because we're better together. And so I think it all depends on where we are and what it is that we do. I hate the fact that they took prayer out of schools and brought in guns. I think that's where it all started. And those kinds of things, we have to look at it. For many people, it may not mean much, but for me, it means everything.
Right. And education in general, right? It's just, you know, it's a hell of a balance, because you got the public safety part, but then you got the education part, and everything is polarized. And you know, education shouldn't be polarized and brought into politics. It should be, hey, we want kids to be safe, protected, and we want them to be able to learn at the highest level without having to worry about all this extra political stuff. And they can't vote.
Absolutely.
And they can't even vote on these decisions. Gun control, red flags laws, and let me preface this because people may not understand a lot of times of like what mayors can and cannot do.
Right.
You all cannot create these policies and these laws and things.
We cannot, even after the Covenant shooting.
Right.
I was so angry about what was going on. I typed in and sent a letter saying that I want this. I want you to put it forth whether it passes or not. I know it may not have any teeth to it, but I found out that we were prohibited from even suggesting and putting any kind of law forward as it relates to gun laws.
Right.
So we do what we always done. We're gonna get what we always got.
Right.
So if we are not going to address these things, now we know that here recently the national GOP has had some concerns because of all the negative publicity that has gone out against Nashville and the state of Tennessee as it relates to the Tennessee 3 and the fact that the Covenant shoot, all of this under this Covenant shooting tragedy, and they would, instead of try to look at some ways to have something with some common sense laws, they decided to go just the opposite, and instead of putting a ban on assault weapons, they assault these two black men.
Right.
And I just think that it is unconscionable that they would do something like that, but it shows us who we are dealing with.
Right.
And Maya Angelou says, when a person shows you who they are, believe them. So we have to unify and come together in order to fight those kinds of things.
Right.
If they put people back in office or put people in office that is the same, and status quo,
Right.
they're going to get the same and status quo.
Right.
That's why it's time for a change. Why we've got to have something different and say, listen, we are rising up and we're coming in order to make a way for us to have a legacy and build wealth for our own.
Right.
Because you all took that from us many, many years ago.
Right.
But we know we can come back from it. Because
spite
if you
of
can
it,
have it, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
If you know how to get it. Because, you know, we know how to make a way out of no way.
Right. That's all we've done. That's all we've done.
That's right.
If elected mayor, how do you use those grassroots connections, right, that you've been able to formulate? Because this is important to me too. Just as a person that understands the work of the different type of work of somebody that has boots on the ground experience, somebody who just maybe just have, you know, political experience, somebody who just might have administration experience, right? You know, you have all the above.
Exactly.
Right? And I always believe, and when I think of the mayor's office, I always believe it as an administration that's supposed to be able to bring community together and be able to allocate these funds to people that are already doing the work.
Right.
Right. That's, I feel like, it was one of the main
Absolutely.
jobs of the mayor. How do you do that?
Listen, that's all I've done. I'm grassroots myself.
Right.
Grassroots that's gone to grass tops. Okay? And the thing of it is that, you know, for you to say bringing groups together, I remember that the former mayor, Bill Purcell, wrote me a letter of recommendation some years ago, and he said, this is before I even got into office, he said that there are very few people in Nashville that can bring folk together, and Sharon Hurt is one of them. And it is so very true. I think with the Jazz and Blues Festival and Bridging the Gap, where we had downtown Nashville meet uptown Jefferson Street. And as I said, I've lived in so many different parts of this city and done those things. But I think we have to start, I think and believe in going from the bottom up as opposed to from the top down. I am not a Harvard pedigree, but I'm a Tennessee State pedigree. I'm somebody that knows that if you want it done, you got to get out there and do it. I'm a one that's going to deliver on what it takes for us to make that happen and know how to bring people together in order to get it done in a smart and efficient and effective way. And these kids are so smart. I'm surrounded. You know what? My whole campaign team, basically, what I should say, at least 80% of them are less than 30 years old. But they are smart women. I got some Fisk students that's working with me. I got some young folk that have graduated from college, some with master's degrees, and just a wealth of experience in doing so many different things. I've learned that a good leader surrounds him or herself with people that are smarter than they are in order to get it all done. And we need people with all different types of experiences as well as personalities in order to get the best of it all.
And this gonna kind of hit home for you where I'm gonna go now. I don't know if it's official. You maybe you can let us know. The council.
Come on, hit home now. You know I used to play softball. I was a shortstop. All right,
the council, the slash. You know, from 40 to 20. The whole redistricting and what that may look like. Now we finna go into a master class with people, you know, who may don't understand how this maybe affects the mayor's role, right? It may be, if you, I'm gonna put it in my words. If you are, you know, not the strongest mayor, right? It may be, you know, you can convince 21 out of 40 people maybe to, you know, vote something into policy or do this or do that. You know, it doesn't even have to be the same 21 people. Right. You know, however, if that's cut in half, trying to persuade or get 11 people out of 20 is a little challenging, little different challenge. And you have to be, I believe, not just a strong man, but a strong leader in order to get things pushed through council at that point. What are your thoughts And how do you believe your not only your leadership experience but your council experience benefits you as probably making these decisions when it comes to possibly being the next mayor of Nashville?
Okay.
Okay,
Now,
this is a master class.
Okay, now I'm gonna give it to you raw, right? So I think the first mayor of Nashville said that this was 40 jealous whores. Okay. And therefore he was able to do whatever it was he needed to do as long as he gave those that he needed to vote the way that he needed and wanted them to vote. I look at it differently. I am a 2-term council member at large, and I have witnessed 39 brilliant individuals in that council. I will lean on them. They're the ones that's got the boots on the ground. Now we know that the structure of the Nashville Metropolitan Davidson County Mayor's position is a mayor structured.
Mayor-led city.
It's a mayor-led structured city. But what I would do is lean more on my council because the council works with the people. And I think that we are better together. And we need to make Nashville a better place. Now, I am grateful that the judges upheld the injunction that Metro Legal pushed through. And I was not for us offering any alternative because I believe that if we let the state come in, tell us what to do, they're going to keep coming in and telling us that it's like a bully. Right. You know, if the bully know that you're afraid of them, they're going to keep on taunting you. Right. And I was not for that. I was going to stand up to the state just like I did when the comptroller came and told us that if we didn't do pass at least a 32% budget, they were going to come in and possibly take over the council. And I stood on the floor and told them I don't take kindly to threats. Right. We don't need to have this bully, autocratic government trying to tell us we are built on a democracy. Right. And that's something we're supposed to be. And that's something that we should respect. Right. So I believe that instead of me trying to use and exercise so much authority over my council, I think that I probably could get a little bit more done by working alongside of them. Again, I'm going to go back to my mama. She said you can catch more flies with honey than you can with vinegar. Right. So use that tactic in what it is that it takes. And I think that's the way we get more done. If we all working together, people buying into it and feeling ownership of what's going on in Nashville. Right. This is because of us. The cities are only as good as their people. Right. And we've got some great people in Nashville, and we need to celebrate them no matter what. I'm going to tell you what my real goal is to do, Jerome.
What's that?
Is, you know, Abraham Lincoln says that you want to change the government opinion, you got to change public opinion. I want to redefine what minority is. When people hear minority, they see it as race-based. I believe it's needs-based. Right? It's that veteran that's looking for a job. Right. It's the disabled man that need housing. It's that woman who's been working all of her life for the state, but she just doesn't have enough insurance to take care of her sick child. Because sometimes, you know, especially those that may have some real serious diseases, you can stay there for a week and it's $100,000. Right. Okay? Right. So it's that mother that lives in Madison who's trying to take care of her sick child. Of course, it's the LGBTQ plus community, the black and brown communities. But it is all of us who are in need at that time. Right. That is the minority, as opposed to them thinking that it's only black and brown people. It's all of us. And the way that they're doing things, they're pushing out our working class and middle class people.
Right.
But it's more of us than it is those that can afford the 500, 600, half a million, $2 million homes.
And so you bring up some good points, and I just gotta just hit it where it need to be hit. Systemic oppression. Some people, especially I would say in the elected positions, don't even like to use some of these type of words. Don't even like to call out white supremacy, anti-blackness, systemic racism, rooted in systemic oppression. And I know you're not one of those people. I've heard you call those things out on the floor, just in everyday life, because again, you've lived it, you witnessed it, and you have just been a person of the people that have been affected the most by these things. How do you still continue to do that if elected mayor? And how do you affect systemic or bring systemic change through the mayor's office? Because I think that systemic part, I think everybody needs to understand that gets away from it's a white person's problem, a black person's problem, an API problem, a Latinx problem. Systemic can affect any and everybody, maybe on different levels, but it hits at everything.
It's all of us right now when they don't want to pass some common sense gun laws. Mm-hmm. Okay? That it's all of us who are at risk of our lives. That's it. The thing of it is, because I'm an older woman, so I would not be in this position if this was not an anointed and appointed assignment for me. Who would sign up to be persecuted? Pretty much like what Justin Pearson was saying. No one is asking to be persecuted. We're here fighting for those who need our voices, who need their voices to be heard through us. Right. So I'm basically just the messenger. And growing up in the 70s, like I did, and you say it's systemic oppression, I didn't even realize that I was being oppressed. You know what I'm saying? Because I was just going along with the flow. Right. Whatever I could do, I couldn't do. We knew that there were boundaries. Right. But when I became an adult, actually when I went through Leadership Nashville, is when I really realized that, because they did this test that said, well, if you've ever been to this, then, take a step forward. Yeah. And if you didn't take a step backwards, and I'm like, wait a minute, I'm all the way back here, and these people up here. I didn't realize that, okay? Because we were doing better than most people in our community, so we thought we were
right.
That's
our perspective, right?
Exactly. It was our perspective. So I think that we must be unapologetically who we are. Thine own self be true. And that's who I am, that's who I have embraced, and that's what I've done as a mayor. Let me speak that into existence.
Go ahead.
That's what I will be as a mayor. Let me just tell you this little short story.
Go ahead.
So when I was growing up, my mother, I told you about all the jobs that she had and all the things that she did. But she had an office, and behind her office in the strip mall was a row of bungalow houses. Okay. And those houses did not have air, they did not have heat. Some of them had doors that were hanging off. The floors had holes in them, and families were destitute. Mm-hmm. But one day my mother brought one of the little girls home, and she gave her a bath, washed and fixed her hair, went out and bought her some new clothes, and gave that little girl hope. It was on that day I learned that I needed to have compassion for those individuals whose lives had been hit with a backhand slap. Mm-hmm. It was also on that day that I could never be separated from the values that my mother taught me. Mm-hmm. So that's the reason why I do the work that I do. Mm-hmm. But I understand. Mm-hmm. That's what has kept me in the work that I've done as a public servant leader, what I have done as a council member, and what I will do as mayor. And I will make sure that I instill and restore hope and prosperity on every block, in every community. Right. Okay? But that doesn't have anything to do with me still knowing and understanding where I came from. Right. And knowing that I can bring others up. in doing so. So that is the motivation and the inspiration I have. Being in a position like that, I can make life better for so many other people. And today, having that oppression is not, again, about race. It's about needs. So we have to look at it and meet people where they are. I serve as the executive director of Streetworks. That's an organization that focuses on the prevention, treatment, and care of individuals who are infected and affected by HIV and AIDS. We also have a robust syringe services program, which is needle exchange, the first certified in this state. So, and let me tell you something. We don't just have these pickup trucks coming from Hickman County or Dixon County. We have some Jaguars that come from Williamson County. We got brand new Camaros coming from Williamson County. We've got Maseratis that come from Sumner County. And Audis that come behind that door, that back building, and go on about their business. Since they say we in Germantown now, nobody really knows and understand. Now, when I was here, you know, Rosa Parks or 8th Avenue was never Germantown. On the other side. But needless to say, so my whole point is that there are people, no matter their race, creed, none of those things matter. And what we focus on is meeting them where they are, giving them what they need. And that's what I will do as mayor. Make sure I meet those people where they are, because I believe every person deserves the quality of life that they wish to have in this city, no matter the zip code.
We talk about quality of life, and so this has to be, I guess, a pillar. I think it should be a pillar for anybody that's running for mayor. And if it's not, it's a red flag to me. It should be a red flag to everybody else. Transportation.
Yes.
Because it's tied into affordability, in my estimation. Transportation affordability. You know, we had a referendum in 2018. You know, that failed. I think it was a lot of things. You know, Megan Berry and the scandal, and then terminologies people not understand.
The messaging, all of that,
went into it. You know, if elected mayor, you know, you will have a lot of power when it comes to maybe another referendum, dedicated funding to transit. It would be great for you to unpack that and let us know, is dedicated funding something that you're for, and how do we, you know, or are there other solutions, right, to fix our transit crises here in Middle Tennessee, Nashville, Middle Tennessee area. And I think personally, maybe that's what, to be a world-class city, we have to. I think we're going to have to fix this.
We definitely going to have to fix that. I mean, we a major league, and absolutely we do. But you know, I'm a simple kind of person. I'm a common sense individual, and I get things done. I deliver it. I find the problem. I find the solution. Okay, and that's the thing. You got to get to the root of it before you can get to the fruit of it. People need, I pick people up off the bus stop and taking them home, because it's been 100 degrees, and some of these older ladies out here that I know, Miss Mary that used to work over there at TSU in the cafeteria, she's standing on there with 3 and 4 bags of groceries. It's 100 degrees outside. I pick her up and I take her home. So yes, so but here's the deal. I'm also, this over here on Jefferson Street, but I'm also in Bellevue, and I see big long buses coming out there, and it's 2 people on the bus. So I think there's some simple things that can be done. Like we can reduce some of those buses that come all the way out there and put some vans or some smaller buses there. I think that we can change the times, flex times, and work with corporations to say, listen, not everybody have to come to work at 8 o'clock. You have one shift that comes in at 7, some come at 8, some come at 9, some come at 10. I think we can work with the school system and say, you know what, let the young kids come at 7 o'clock, and then the older kids can come later, because can stay at home and get themselves ready, where the young kids need the parents there, so they get the kids to school and get to work. You know,
are you for dedicated funding for transit?
Absolutely, for dedicated funding for transportation, and we'll also go out there and seek more funding. I went to D.C. with Mayor Carl Dean when he was trying to get funding for the AMP that they wanted to come down West End, and I was all for the AMP because you got to start somewhere. Right. We needed to do something to address our transportation and traffic problem. Right. So I was all for the AMP because, listen, I lived in Bellevue, but I had a daughter who was in school at Hillwood, one who was in school at Hume Fogg, and one who was in school at Martin Luther King. And I used to come straight down West End trying to get them all to school, drop her off, then go back and get this one up. And they also swam. The younger two were swimming more because my older daughter, by the time she got to the 10th grade, oh no, she can't mess up her hair. Right. So she was, she had to stop that swimming. She started playing basketball. But those other two were swimming. At 5 o'clock in the morning, I had to get them to swim practice. Go back and get my daughter, take her to school, come back, pick them up, and go and do all of that stuff. But it was a straight shot down West End, and it would have saved me so much time, effort, money, and gas and wear and tear on my car. If there had been the AMP that went from West End and took them all the way to downtown. Right. So I was for that, and it had to start somewhere. Right. And once that shown that it was effective and an efficient means of it, then we could have come to Jefferson Street or over to Charlotte Avenue. Way we do it is we got to try a little bit before we can expand the whole thing. Right. And maybe if people saw some relief at that, they would realize it, because now we're at a point that it is just ridiculous. You can have an accident on the interstate. It'll take people 2 hours to get to work or to get home from a little fender bender.
Right, and I think...
and by the way, that federal money was approved by Secretary Fox at that time, but because the community decided no, we weren't able to
get that funding. And so community may not know this, so I'm going to inform them. So with that dedicated funding, which we have to vote on to get from the federal, is different things that funding comes from different taxes. One of the taxes that people always worry about, especially homeowners, right, is that property tax, which wouldn't be affected if it would have passed through the referendum.
Correct.
However, the only other solution that a mayor could make to get the money for transit is a property tax, which people don't want. So I just want to put that out there for people.
And let me just tell you about property tax, because a lot of people think that the property tax is directly taxes on their houses, meaning when we had that 34% property tax, that it was going to be, if they got a $100,000 house, then they got to pay taxes on $134,000. That's not the way it worked. It was a 34% tax increase on the rate, which is totally different. So instead, you might have been spending $150 on taxes, but with that 30% or 34% tax increase, then instead of you spending $150 on your taxes, then now you're going to be paying $185.
Potentially, as a next mayor, say we have a referendum and it fails again, what steps would you take?
Like I said, we're going to make it simple. In terms of, we know that the 22 bus in North Nashville is probably the one that's used the most. It has the largest ridership. And I will make sure that the bus is going there in plenty of time. It's running frequently enough to make sure people are able to get on the bus and get where they need to be. I'll probably put in some more bus stops, because some folks have to wait for 30, 40 minutes on a bus stop to get where it's. In fact, Dr. David Padgett at Tennessee State has a GIS program that he's been monitoring the buses and the way things have gone. I would work with him and find out and address all of these issues. We got a lot of good things that are happening right here in this city. We just have to tap into them and use those things. I'm not an expert on all of the things. In fact, none of the candidates are. That's why we got to rely on good people like you and all of these people in Nashville in order to make it work and execute those things. And I'm just telling, just something as simple as taking those big buses that I was talking about in Bellevue. And all of these kids that's going to school at MLK and Hume Falk who cannot get a school bus to take them, get a spot where you pick them up and you run 2 or 3 buses to get those kids there, as opposed to the parents all trying to get the kids to school at the same time, eliminating 150 cars off of the roads.
Well, you know, the big thing always in this city right now is like money, funding, right?
Right.
And so,
but you know what? Because of that tax increase that we had, we're doing pretty well. Our budget looks pretty good. So it's the dedicated funding that we would put to make sure, all of it to me is about the political will of the leader. If the political will of the leader is to do development and bring downtown up and make it all this, that, and the other, that's what we're going to see. But if the political will is to make sure that we get out into those neighborhoods, get into those areas that's been disproportionately impacted, affected, neglected, that's where we're going to make sure that happens. Because when they do well, they all do well. And I'm going to give you my other analogy about that. You know, I love sports. And I love talk about Michael Jordan and the Chicago Bulls. Michael Jordan, we knew he was going to get 50 or 60 points a game. It didn't matter. He going to lay it up. He going to do whatever. He going to shoot that thing, all of it. He got the 60 points. But he never won a championship until he got Scottie Pippen in the game and Dennis Rodman in the game. So this is the way I look at it. Michael Jordan is downtown Nashville. Scottie Pippen is North Nashville. Dennis Rodman is East Nashville. Tony Kukoc is South Nashville out there in Antioch. Steve Kerr is West Nashville, because you know he going to lay in that corner and drop them threes all day long, because he got it like that. Just like those folks in West Nashville got it like that. When you get all of them in the game, playing it together, that's when you win championships. 6 times over. That's when Nashville comes up, because poverty anywhere is a threat to prosperity everywhere. That's why the best of us got to help the rest of us, and we got to come together and make this happen together. And we need somebody with some lived experiences that can see this and know it. And I mean the history, because I'm seeing a lot of things now come into play that I saw 50 years ago. Just like Tennessee State and the state of Tennessee. Now, what are they doing? Developing downtown, the riverbank, and now they're developing the East Bank. And what else? What is it that TSU has that nobody else has? The West Bank. Think about it. That's why they want it. They may not want the school itself, but they want that property over there so they can develop the West Bank. That's what I'm thinking. That's what I'm saying. You just got to connect the dots.
Well, I think too, why this is important is so many new people that's moving here. They don't have that history. They don't have that knowledge. They're not in tune. They just moving here because of everything that's booming.
And they're doing what other people are telling them to do. That's why we got to help and educate each other and let people know.
Are you giving them a massive?
It is our time. It is our time. For sure. And if we don't do it now, and the reason why is because the demographics are changing. The population is changing. We are the most diverse city in the state of Tennessee. It's more and more black and brown people coming. And as we continue to live, you got more progressive people You got people that don't think about those Jim Crow laws. You got people that says this is draconian. The people that think that women got the right to decide what happens to their own bodies. You got people that don't believe that, you know, people should be able to go and buy a gun and use it for whatever reason they want to at 18 years old without any training.
Right.
You got those people that are coming here. It is changing, and those people who are stuck in those ways are afraid that that is what is happening.
Right.
And you know why? Because it is.
Right.
Because we are coming up.
Right.
Still I rise.
Right.
And it's our time.
As we come to the closing, I think one of the major responsibilities of any of our, especially being a mayor-led city of Nashville, is the budget. Every year, you know, everybody's, you know, trying to get into that budget. Whether it's WeGo, whether it's MNPD, public safety, housing. I think this is important for voters to know and get an understanding of all candidates' experience with budgets, right? And because this is crucial. Anybody that's listening, this is watching and listening. This is crucial because this is kind of where the city goes or don't go. Who has the money to do what? How's money allocated? Whether it's education, the bars for housing, whether it's public safety. Do we go with trends? Like this is where decisions. This is where things are really affected quality of life for Nashvillians and people living here. So can you just unpack that for us and break that down, your budget experience and how even just being on the council plays a part in what you would do or don't do potentially as our next mayor when it comes to how funds are allocated, and even maybe giving us your top priorities where you believe we need more funding towards to kind of move the city forward.
Okay, well, that's easy for me to tell you where I think we need to put more money for it, and that's small, minority, and women-owned businesses.
Okay.
That's been my pinpoint from the very beginning. For the 25 years I worked on Jefferson Street to going into the council for the past 8 years till today, and I can assure you that is probably going to be, that will be my main objective as mayor. Okay. Because I believe that that's where the core of it has to be in economics. Everybody has to be able to benefit from the wealth of what is coming into this city. Mm-hmm. And once we develop this East Bank, that is a huge, huge waterfall of money that's coming in for this city, and I want every block, every community to benefit from it, leaving nobody out. It's time out for that. And the philosophy that Maynard Jackson had in terms of making sure that our people benefited from those things in Atlanta is the exact same thing that I'm going to do here in Nashville. Now, as far as the budget experience, so me running 2 nonprofit organizations, me running a department at Mayoral Medical College and seeing those budgets, but that was nothing compared. And I also have a degree, a master's degree in nonprofit leadership, and I had to take some budgeting classes, accounting classes, and finance classes, and all of that. But it was nothing compared to me sitting on that council and going through that budget for the past 8 years. Because you have to learn that budgets in that for the council and for this city is different. All the money that comes in, most people think all the money that we got coming in here can be spent if we got a deficit somewhere. Well, take this money from over here and put it in there. Why do we have a problem if we're doing so well with tourism? Because the money is allocated differently and you cannot use it. And we have laws that tells us where we can use the money when we bring it in, like our hotel tax. For instance, the hotel tax that's been increased that the state said we can increase in order to use for the stadium.
Titan Stadium.
The Titan Stadium. We can only use that money for that purpose.
Okay.
It cannot be used for the infrastructure.
Right.
That's why we put in this Nashville Needs program in order to make sure we use that for infrastructure,
Right.
but we can use it for broadband.
Right.
And I believe we're going to be able to get some more. And that's good to
Right.
do that. And it's important. But I think that while we focus on the stadium, this is a $2 billion project, but the East Bank redevelopment is more like a $50 billion development. So I'd rather focus on that $50 billion and make sure that my people getting $5 billion as opposed to me really being concerned about the $500 million, because that is a huge difference. But I serve on the audit committee, and now that's where I've really found some information out, because there are pockets and pots of money that I didn't even realize existed.
Right.
That is being used for different things that we didn't even know. It was all just put in because the operating budget for the city is massive.
Right.
It is massive. You cannot actually go through each and every page, all of that in a matter of weeks. That's why the budget and finance chair, it's almost a year-long process for them to work on and with that budget, for them to understand what it is that they're doing.
What are your thoughts on the Titan Stadium and how that will impact Nashville?
We're a major league city.
Okay.
We got to have major league things.
Okay.
We're committed to having to pay. Period. The old deal is a bad deal.
Okay.
And it's almost like if you no sense in putting good money after bad money.
Okay.
So for a new Titan Stadium, I think we will be getting a greater return on our investment.
Okay.
But again, the Titan Stadium is just a piece
Right.
of this whole East Bank development. And while we're focusing on that, we are missing this East Bank development.
Right.
And that's where the real money is. I think we leverage what we have, what we know, and what we have or have not done, or what the administration has or has not done,
Right.
to make sure that we are at the table
Right.
when it comes to this East Bank development, and get all of that done for us to have more, to take care of the infrastructure, to take care of the small businesses, take care of broadband, take care of sidewalks,
Right.
take care of the things that's important, get the potholes filled up,
Right.
and do the things that matters most. Make sure we have some housing.
Right.
Make sure we're able to pay our teachers. We can get our educational system up and where it needs to be.
Are there any programs, new programs, or ones that you would want to kind of refurbish that's already in our current mayoral administration that you have in mind that you want to implement if elected mayor?
You know, I can't think of anything off of the cuff right now
Uh-huh.
that you're saying,
Right.
but I can tell you that Nashville is in a good place right now.
Okay.
Nashville is doing well. That's why we've got to come together, unify our voices, unify our votes, be in solidarity, and make sure that we are able to advance us as the new Nashville, and take away from the old guard and make sure that we don't continue with the status quo of what it is that we have done for all of these years, and use that and benefit to make it even better.
I think it's important.
You know, I mean, like the bonds funds is a good thing. I know that was something that started under Mayor Barry, but I believe that we got to have accountability. We got to have enforcements. We got to have all of these different things in place. Having redevelopment districts like Jefferson Street and Phillips Jackson's and other All of those things are good, but we've got to make sure that we spread the wealth. There's got to be more equity and
what does that mean? That's what I was going to ask. What does that word equity mean to you? Because I think it means different things to different people. And so, what does that mean?
So
to you?
equity means is meeting people where they are, giving them the things that they need, so there can be some equitable opportunities for you to thrive as a small business owner, not necessarily giving you equal to what someone else has, because somebody may not need. It's just like they were telling me with the airport. Well, we have, we've gone up. We've got 100% increase in what it is that we're doing with minority businesses, and we're just doing really great. We got an increase of 100%. I said, that is really good. I'm glad that you increased at 100%. But what I need to know is what you're doing with white majority businesses. Because, see, that means that you could be giving 0.5%
Right.
to minority businesses, and if you improve about 100%, so now you're giving them 1%, that is still not good enough.
Right.
So I don't want the percentages. I want to see it in black and white. Tell me what kind of money you are doing, because what I found is that they may have given $50 million, but they gave it to 100 businesses over 5 years.
Right.
So that meant that everybody got $25,000. Right. That's no money for you to be able to build your business. So to me, giving you that opportunity and the ability, the resources, in order for you to become a viable, thriving business.
So in short, equity costs something.
It costs.
Equity costs.
And we gotta put it there, and that's what is going to be my main. I didn't realize it until a couple of 2-3 weeks ago that I was in a meeting with this lady that worked at the health department, and she told me, well, she told the whole group that she moved from working in corporate because I inspired her so, because I was fighting so hard for the disparities that I had seen in the community. And she has been working and become a public servant for the past 20 years as a result of that. And I think that's exactly what it is. Because like I said, poverty anywhere is a threat to prosperity everywhere. Right. And we all do better. When they say that white America gets a cold, black America gets pneumonia. So if black America is doing well, then white America does extremely well, because they already have the lion's share. We've got to bring all of us up. Leave not one community, one black, give everybody their fair chance of having a quality of life and making their dreams come true in this city.
Why should the Nashville residents elect you as mayor?
Because when they vote for me, it's like them voting for themselves. The concerns and the issues that they have are the concerns and the issues that I have. I'm a deliverer. I would ask anybody, check my record, look at it. I see what the problems are and I address them. When I did that workforce development program, it was because people said that they wanted to be a part of the Music City Convention Center. But how were they going to do it? They didn't have a way to get into that. So I went to the mayor and I said, we want to create a workforce development program. We'll take in all the applications, serve as a clearinghouse. And when people want to hire somebody, we'll give them the best top quality applicants for that, and they can choose. We can ease up that work for them. That's how we were able to get 450 people hired on that job. That's how we were able to get 2,000 people referred to training.
Right.
That's how we were able to save hundreds of thousands of dollars for people with that driver's license restoration program.
Right.
Because we were changing lives. We were doing it, and I am going to, I'm going to restore trust, because I'm going to give you the truth, and I'm going to be transparent. Because that's the only way that I know how to be. That's what I've given you as a public servant leader, as a council member, and that's what I'm going to give you as mayor.
So people who may not, who may just be tuning in, just say, I'm gonna go straight to the end of this. What is Sharon's Hurt vision for Nashville?
Sharon Hurt's vision for Nashville is for us to have balance. For people who come here, who live here, have the opportunity to fulfill their dreams, because their dreams can come true. And I am the mayor that's going to ensure that you have the opportunity to make your dreams come true. I'm going to fulfill Nashville's promise to everyone.
How can people reach out to you to support your campaign, get in touch, ask questions once they hear and see this, to maybe unpack some things a little more? Maybe they, maybe it's something we didn't get into.
Okay, you can reach out to me at info at Sharon for Nashville, Sharon FOR for Nashville, because I am for Nashville. It's not that I'm trying necessarily to be mayor, but I want Nashville to be better. Info at SharonForNashville.com.
Okay.
You can go to my website at SharonForNashville.com. Okay. And all the information, you sign up. We're going to need volunteers. We're going to get people to knock on doors. We need people to get out there and vote. That's how we change things. When we change it for everyone. This is not about Sharon, but it's about every person that's ever been dismissed, discounted, disenfranchised, marginalized, overlooked, underrated, underestimated, overworked, and underpaid. Mm-hmm. Those that have been used and abused. It is our time. It's time for us to rise up, and I am the leader that's going to make sure that that happens.
Is there anything else that you want to just put an exclamation point on as we wrap it up? I think we hit on pretty much anything, but if anything that we did touch on that you wanted to clear up, any narratives or anything that you might have heard, seen, just want to address, I want to give you that.
I'm all about the people. I am about empowering people. I'm about developing people and giving people the opportunity. And I see this as an opportunity. I'm not the kind to come in here. I'm not an optimist. I'm a pessimist. I see opportunity anywhere and everywhere. People didn't believe in Jefferson Street, but I did. I'm like, this is beautiful. I think we got to celebrate what people are doing over here. I went to the doggone, I got courage. I went to people. That's one thing you have to have courage to go and stand before. I don't have anything to lose. So I will stand up for what I believe in, and I will always, always do what I believe is right.
Councilwoman Hurt, I appreciate your time. Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I'm glad we did this, and I know everybody's going to enjoy hearing this and seeing this. And
well, I thank you for giving me the opportunity to be who I am, to be unapologetic, because I want people to know that's what I have fought for. And I know that sometimes people get misconceptions and they've heard things or believe one thing or something else, and they never really have an opportunity to get to really, truly know their elected officials. And I am glad to share. I believe in loving thy neighbor as thyself.
Thank you. Everybody go out and vote.
All right.